YNW Melly's team has looked very good during the trial so far, which could lead to his release from jail, although the trial might not even make it to the verdict stage due to a new mistrial floating in the air. There's even the chance of if YNW Melly is found guilty by the jury, his lawyers have many plans ready for his release by appeals, as a new interview was released today that shows his manager, 100K Track, speaking on the situation.
If the unfortunate thing does happen and he is convicted, do you guys have a plan of what you guys are gonna do?
Of course. I mean, it's always an appeal for sure. You gotta go for an appeal. You know what I'm saying? Then there's the penalty being on the table, going for that. You know what I'm saying? Try to get that completely gone.
So with Melly's team very ready for the possibility of having to appeal a guilty verdict, an online lawyer shared how YNW Melly's team has been preparing for it, which goes on to read, "The defense is doing everything to preserve the record for a potential appeal if YNW Melly is convicted, because this is potentially a penalty case. This is why the defense keeps arguing certain points outside the jury's presence, as YNW Melly's team will not go away easily. They will do everything in their power to get YNW Melly out of jail, because this isn't even the first we have heard of an appeal or even a mistrial during this trial. During the second week of the YNW Melly trial, we would already see Melly's team filing for that mistrial. Unfortunately, that one was denied. However, the talks for a mistrial would return the following day, with Melly's lawyer yelling across the courtroom to prosecutors, asking if they have any evidence at all.
Do you have any evidence to indicate this young man was involved in this?
State.
As most of the witnesses the prosecution have called to the stand have all provided little to zero evidence against Melly. With this happening, the rap lawyer provided an explanation on how the mistrial could come back.
Big drama at the YNW Melly trial today, and I told people this was going to happen. They didn't want to listen to me. The judge very upset that the courtroom camera and microphones are picking up whispers of the defendant's lawyers to each other, to the defendant. I also have raised issues. There's a photographer in there snapping away millions of photos of YNW Melly's face all day. There's a cameraman who zooms in on YNW Melly while he's having exchanges with his lawyers. Courtroom is a privilege. With our human eyes and our human ears, and our human time, we can see certain things. But when you record with high sensitivity mics and zoom and you focus in on the defense team, that's not a privilege that you have. You can bet the defense is going to use this to probably ask for another mistrial or add this to the long list of problems that they have with this trial and then ask for a mistrial.
As shortly after, we would even see the judge announce that he will be excluding some of the prosecutor's evidence against Melly due to the violation of the discovery rules within the courtroom.
YNW Melly trial, more missteps from the prosecution. This time, the judge issuing a sanction. The sanction is the prosecution is not going to be allowed to use certain evidence. The reason? The prosecution failed to turn the evidence over in a timely manner. The defense had accused them of trying to plug up holes. You're going to see the footage from the judge where the judge says, look, this is not the right way to do it. Ultimately, I don't know if this is a huge part of their case, this evidence that's being excluded, but it speaks to the issue that the defense attorney was talking about, is this is a case. If you've got your evidence, go ahead and present it. The way the evidence is coming out, there's just too many missteps, too many technical mishaps.
A mistrial would be insanely helpful for YNW Melly, as it would be reported, not only would we have to start all of this all over again, but YNW Melly's defense team would have a significant built-in advantage in the next trial, because that usually indicates improper admission of evidence, jury misconduct, and more. While YNW Melly's defense team has been focusing on trying for a mistrial in the courtroom, we would even see chaos begin erupting outside of the courtroom, as the families of YNW Melly and YNW Juvie have been getting heated with each other, with a report coming out today stating, before testimony kicked off on Tuesday morning, the court learned YNW Juvie's sister allegedly reached out to YNW Melly's mother, Jamie King, on social media.
What's been going on in the courtroom?
Well, Anjanette, it's been a very interesting morning. It did start off earlier with the defense bringing up an issue. Apparently, Juvie's sister posted on, I guess, one of the social media outlets, and she said that she was going to Jamie King. And so that caused a big, issue in the courtroom. It wasn't anything that we got on tape, but it did happen this morning. It was on the record, and she has a bodyguard now. So that was one of the first issues that the court dealt with this morning. And it was interesting because the judge did basically say, if you needed more security, I can get it for you. Ultimately, it was determined that the security she had, the bodyguard, was going to be enough. So
this would lead into Melly's mother now rolling with a security guard at all times. YNW Melly heard of this going on and began worrying a lot for his mom. We would even see the story of the families going back and forth on social media.
Now, shout out to Reddit, because we had to do some digging to find the sister. Now, this is the sister, Ashley Monique. And let me show you the post that she had posted on Facebook, because, honey, it was quite the stir. So she posted this screenshot from Jamie King, YNW Melly's mother, and she said, "Pest control, who called about a..." Now, that was in regards to a post made by Trayvon Glass on his Instagram page, where he basically said that he's not worried about anything, and if he's a come him. So in a nutshell, Melly's mom is calling Trayvon Glass a, and Monique replied back and says, "A is when you do something wrong and not take responsibility and then go and set somebody up because you're scared to lay down." She goes on to say, "That's not the case here. Fetty was Juvie's friend, not Melly. He was only around because Juvie brought him." Now in the comments, somebody says she better find something safe to do. Another person replied back and says, "Very well said." Another person tagged Jamie, and somebody else said, "Come get." Now, Ashley was in the comments and says, "She even has a bodyguard, child." Another person replied and says, "Yeah, she need one because she's talking like she's 200 pounds and she ain't even pushing 100. Now, somebody else posted this and says, "She's going to need them because she in the wrong city talking." Now, I think that when Melly's defense attorneys found this, they submitted it over to the judge and basically was like, Juvie's sister's out here Melly's mom. Now, the judge did state that if Melly's mom needed security, he would issue her security, and then he found out that she had a bodyguard, and that would be sufficient enough.
The judge of YNW Melly's case would provide special security services for Melly's mom inside of the courtroom. This would lead to YNW Melly being much happier during his trial. His lawyer would even recognize how big of a deal this was for Melly, and he even offered him a hug during the middle of the trial.
Jury entry.
However, this is when we would get the brand new update of, and I quote, YNW Melly's jail phone call to his mother. This was used to help verify what phone number belonged to which person.
To continue, press 1. To disconnect, press 2. Thank you for using Secure. You may start the conversation now. Hello? Hey, baby. Why did you just call my phone right on my credit card when you knew it was very good? You should have called my phone, baby, because I couldn't ring on my phone. It's right on my phone. No, you out of money. It said that this is not what this is. I just put my credit card on your phone now. Yeah, oh, yeah, you could. Oh, yeah, it's on my credit card. Yeah, I don't know your credit card number because it asks for like your expiration date and your zip code. I don't know what your stuff is that's linked to that card.
On top of everything Melly's mom has been involved in throughout this case, this has caused her to be extremely stressed out during the trial. YNW Melly caught wind of this, so he did his best to comfort her during the middle of the courtroom.
Sorry.
You'll just... Don't do it.
While YNW Melly was comforting his mother, the prosecutors would then call someone up to the stand that was at the recording studio on the night of the crime. However, YNW Melly's team really did not want this man to testify, as we would see Melly's lawyers say this in court.
On the stand is knowingly, Judge. They knew in the deposition, one, Two, they knew when I put them on notice with my motion. So they had the opportunity after the deposition to, after my motion pointing out we violated the rule of sequestration, just not to call them. They, however, are going to continue to proceed knowing he has violated the rule and put him on the stand. So yes, when we look at it that way, the state may be acting inappropriately.
This man's name is Trayvon Glass, a best friend of YNW Juvie and an alright friend of YNW Melly. He would go on to take a seat on the stand, where we would hear brand new information of what happened after the crime was done, with the report of YNW Melly's friend confirms that Melly changed his clothing at Fredo Bang's house on the night of the crime.
Okay, was that the first time you saw Melly after you guys left the studio?
Yeah.
Was Melly wearing the same clothes or different clothes than when you saw him at the studio?
It was a new day. Nah, he wasn't.
Nah, he wasn't. You guys
wasn't wearing the same clothes.
Okay. Do you recall what he was wearing?
Just had on some shorts.
Okay. And
so with Trayvon testifying that YNW Melly did in fact change his clothing on that night, it makes him look equally as guilty as YNW Bortland, as Bortland did the exact same thing. Melly's lawyers have been saying during the entire trial how suspicious it is that Bortland changed his clothing after the crime took place. So even if Trayvon just made YNW Melly look really bad from that clip, throughout the whole day though, he was very sarcastic in the courtroom, and I don't know how the jury is gonna feel about his overall testimony. However, this is when YNW Melly's lawyers would begin asking him questions, where he actually began to make YNW Melly look better, which is very strange considering he technically helped out both sides of the case.
You don't know of any friction between Melly and Anthony Day Williams at any time?
I don't know.
And you don't know of any friction between Melly and Christopher Thomas at any time?
I don't know.
You didn't see any friction between that night of any magnitude?
I did.
You did?
I didn't.
Once Trayvon got outside of the courtroom though, we would then see him speak out on social media, leaving many to believe that someone tried to keep Trayvon extra quiet on the stand today.
So Trayvon Glass has been really active on Instagram since he finished his testimony today. So he posted this on Instagram, and you can pause to read it, but in a nutshell, he basically said, "I'm not a rat, and if I am, come and me." And just before he took the witness stand, he posted this image, and it's with Sack Chaser and Juvie in it. So I guess that's in commemoration. I mean, he was friends with these two guys. And then he proceeded to post this video by Charleston White with a caption that says, "Bruh bug." And in the video, Charleston White is basically talking about, if you me up, he's gonna basically snitch to the prosecutors. So I'm curious as to who Trayvon Glass thinks is gonna him up for testifying. Now remember, he did take a phone call while he was in court, and that's when the judge had asked him, basically, who were you talking to? Trayvon had explained it was his brother calling, and he was just concerned about his whereabouts. In my opinion, it sounds like a number of people probably didn't want Trayvon Glass to testify today, so I'm curious as to who it was.
With Trayvon no longer on the stand, this is when the prosecutors would now present new messages between YNW Melly and his girlfriend in 2018, just weeks after the crime was done. This made him look very suspicious to the jury.
moving on to Friday, November 9th, 2029, 20 UTC, 2018. Message from Melly Montana to, again, Dat Baby. What does that one say?
You don't with me anyways. I peeped it. You can slide, but God knows I wasn't in her and real breaking. You spoiled everything was given to you. You act like a some slide. I keep Borton with cuz at the
with YNW Melly stating his loyalty to Bortland and how Bortland did one of the realest things in his life, some believe that the realest thing he's referring to is helping out YNW Melly with what happened to Sack Chaser and Juvie. However, not only would this trial bring the light to what happened to Sack Chaser and Juvie, but also a new lawsuit that has just been submitted this week, as YNW Juvie's family submitted a lawsuit against YNW Melly seeking millions of dollars in damages. victims, as Juvie's mother believes that Melly, his manager, and his mother all benefited from the passing of YNW Juvie, as they were using the hashtag #FreeMelly to promote music within the YNW record label. It continues to go on to state, with continued financial gain, notoriety, and prospects of more, tensions began to develop between members of the YNW group. They highlighted this video of YNW Melly's mother talking back to YNW Sack Chaser, where they believe that this is what started the feud between YNW.
Show me text messages from Sack Chaser, all her friends, and all these people, like he's about this life. But I'm saying, like, who you ever out at? What you ever did? You couldn't even take charge. If you don't sit your down and don't ever come for me, because my credentials is real. It ain't even a joke. So don't ever try to come for me, because I don't even play them type of games. Like, what you got that I ain't got? Oh, you your look? I got big. At the end of the day, Melly is my child.
It then goes on to mention what they believe happened to Juvie, stating, and I quote, YNW Melly was seated in the left rear seat of the vehicle where he affected Christopher Thomas, aka YNW Juvie. Following the incident, during the critical period where it was still possible to save Juvie and Sack Chaser, defendants Melly and Bortland instead changed their clothing and then staged the drive-by. In doing so, they destroyed evidence of their own crime and manufactured evidence to support the stage drive-by theory by using a firearm multiple times into and around the Jeep. It continues further reading, YNW Melly's manager, Jameson Francis, and his mother, Jamie King, were involved in the cover-up to varying degrees, including hiding evidence, as the most incriminating evidence for Melly's manager would be when it reads, Defendant 100K Track assisted YNW Melly and YNW Bortland with the collection and disposal of the firearm that was used in the crime. Now, it really makes you wonder if that is true, because if it is, this interview of 100K Track alongside DJ Academics from a few years ago is gonna hit a little different.
He built a real great solid team away from just being innocent, because he wouldn't do such a crime. He prepared himself and got a proper, defense. Their job is to handle themselves in trial, not on social media. You guys are taking it that way. If they say they got DNA in a car, I'm just gonna tell you, Melly DNA was found in the car. You're gonna think, yeah, his DNA was found in the car the day of the. Oh, he jumped in a car and his DNA was in the car. He did it, okay? But you're not gonna put the fact that this was his car for 6-7 months on those documents and dockets and just automatically be like, yo, he's fried. You don't even know what the defense is. You don't even know what the rebuttal is. You don't even know why that situation occurred. You hear ballistics flying. You don't know what the defense is. You hear this, you hear that. You get what I'm saying?
I'm gonna be honest.
As 100K Track mentions that YNW Melly has great defenses on his side. That would make perfect sense if it is true that 100K Track ended up destroying evidence as well as the item that was used in this crime. Even YNW Melly's reaction to the evidence of the no firearm is a little strange.
Why not?
So the first thing is I didn't have a firearm, so I can't know which firearm I'm going to use in order to replicate any of my tests. So I can't make tests for this determination because I don't know what was used.
Okay. Do you have a